a revolution in German fighter design, for she's the first German radial engine fighter of this war. The Focke-Wulf Fw190 has set us some tricky problems in the past. Spits and Thunderbolts have got her taped now, but the 190 is still a vital factor in Germany's defense of her European stronghold.
By the early 1940s, the air war over Europe had settled into a rhythm the RAF understood. Spitfires against Messerschmitts, known strengths and known weaknesses. Then, almost overnight, something new arrived, and that balance disappeared. RAF pilots started reporting a radial engine fighter that could outclimb, outrun and outgun anything they had at low altitude. What makes the FW190 particularly interesting is that despite how modern it appeared in 1941, its roots can be tracked back to much earlier aviation thinking. Following the merger between Focke-Wulf and Albatros in 1931, there's a clear lineage in design philosophy. Like the Albatros fighters of the First World War, the FW190 had a more solid, slightly heavier appearance than its contemporaries. It stood in contrast to the more streamlined Messerschmitt Bf109 and Supermarine Spitfire. The aircraft's designer, Kurt Tank, approached the project differently from many of his peers. With a background in both cavalry and infantry service, he prioritised durability and usability as much as outright performance. While other designers focused on lightweight airframes built around powerful inline engines, Tank opted for a radial engine and a wider, more rugged undercarriage. This gave the aircraft a distinct advantage in terms of reliability and ease of operation, particularly from less prepared airfields. This approach also appealed to the German Air Ministry for practical reasons. The FW190 could be produced without interfering with existing Bf109 production lines, giving Germany a second high-performance fighter without disrupting output. Once tested, it quickly proved to be far more than just a supplementary aircraft. Tank later described his thinking by comparing aircraft to horses. He saw the Spitfire and Bf109 as thoroughbred racehorses, highly refined but dependent on ideal conditions. The FW190, by contrast, was intended to be more like a cavalry horse, strong, dependable and capable of performing in a wide range of conditions. It wasn't just designed to fly well, it was designed to operate effectively in combat from the outset. That philosophy translated into an aircraft that excelled at low and medium altitudes, where most air combat actually took place. It was heavily armed, relatively forgiving to fly, and capable of taking damage while remaining operational. When it entered service, it immediately gave the Luftwaffe a noticeable advantage over RAF fighters operating over northern France. The RAF's initial reaction to reports of this new aircraft was sceptical, but as more pilots encountered it and losses increased, it became clear that this was a serious threat. There was even discussions about launching a commando raid to capture one for evaluation, which highlights just how urgently the RAF needed to understand it. That urgency was resolved in an unexpected way on the 23rd of June 1942. During a combat mission over the southwest of England, Armin Faber became disorientated after engagement with RAF fighters. Believing he was over France, he landed at what he thought was a German airfield. It was actually RAF Pembrey. Faber had effectively handed the RAF a fully operational FW190A3. The aircraft was immediately secured and sent for evaluation, given RAF markings and the serial MP 499. It was tested extensively at Farnborough. Pilots were able to assess its performance directly, identifying both its strengths and limitations. The information gathered from these tests proved critical. It directly influenced the development and rapid introduction of the Spitfire Mk IX, which was specifically brought into service to counter the FW190. This new variant helped restore parity in the air war, particularly at the altitudes where the FW190 had been most dominant. Now, if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive, it's worth noting that almost 70% of you watching aren't subscribed. So if you want more videos like this covering aircraft history and the stories behind them, make sure you hit that subscribe button. The captured aircraft itself had a relatively short operational life of the RAF, and after a period of intensive testing, was eventually used for ground trials and scrapped in 1943. Despite that, its impact had already been significant in shaping RAF fighter development. Looking at later variants, the FW190A8 represents the most heavily produced version of the aircraft. Introduced in 1944, it incorporated a number of refinements and was designed to be more adaptable. It could carry a wide range of armament configurations, allowing it to operate effectively in multiple roles. This adaptability is even more apparent in the Fw190 F8, which was specifically optimised for ground attack operations. It featured additional armour protection, improved communication equipment, and modifications to enhance performance at lower altitudes. Its ability to carry bombs, rockets, and other ordnance made it particularly effective in supporting ground forces. The first scheme in our boxing is an Fw190 A8 flown by Major Carl Kennel in May 1945. By this stage of the war, German forces were in retreat, and units were attempting to move west to surrender to American or British forces rather than face Soviet capture. Kennel, an experienced pilot with a significant number of combat missions, took part in this movement. On landing, it's reported that he deliberately damaged his aircraft, possibly as a final act of defiance. The scheme reflects a late war aircraft shaped by sustained operations and the conditions of a collapsing front. The second scheme features an Fw190 F8 from SG4 operating on the Eastern Front in 1944. This aircraft highlights the Fw190's role as a ground attack platform. Equipped with heavier armament and capable of carrying a wide range of external stores, it was used extensively against troop concentrations and armoured targets. Aircraft in this role often displayed variation in their appearance, while factory-applied camouflage followed official standards. Operational units frequently adapted their aircraft based on local conditions. This could result in additional markings or modifications using whatever materials were available, meaning no two aircraft were necessarily identical. By the end of the war, more than 20,000 Fw190s had been produced, making it one of the most important German fighters of the conflict. Its combination of durability, firepower and versatility ensured it remained effective throughout the war, particularly in the environments where it most often deployed. While it may not have followed the same design path as its contemporaries, the Fw190 demonstrated that a more robust and adaptable approach to fighter design could deliver just as much impact on the battlefield.